Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be showcasing the style of Okami and how you can potentially recreate it for yourself. Now this is the model of Amaterasu, I can't really pronounce that, forgive me, but that's the main character, or at least the wolf character from Okami. I haven't played the game, so this is just my deconstruction of the style. And one thing I noticed, so this Wii version of the model has low resolution textures. I'm pretty sure they used some form of like texture filtering in engine to make the textures look more inky. And then the next thing that really stands out is that the outline looks very inky. Instead of having like the ankles modeled into the base mesh, they kind of replicated that using the outline, which is really, really cool. And then the ears. This is where like the style really like showcases cool things you can do with this, right? The ears, they're a very simple like triangle shape. However, the ear outline, it's curved up. It's like it gives you an illusion of ink. And then same thing from the front. It's a simple triangle, the base part of it, but then the ink flows down like that. It's really cool. There's nothing really too notable other than that on the front view. But then like you look from like the top, like that looks really cool. Now you're thinking, how did they do this? And it's very simple. We go into unshaded mode, and I think you might notice it's basically the wolf is wearing a giant cloak. This is basically just a separate mesh. So if I can hide that, you can see the original one. And what they do is they apply a black color to it, and then they enable backface culling. So in Blender 4.3.2, you just go to backface culling and then enable camera view, and that will basically invert. Or I'm pretty sure you actually have to. Let's see here. So if we go to mesh, normals, flip outside, by default it's going to look like this. You have to flip them to make sure the back face is facing outside, so it does that. And it creates a really easy way to give an outline. It's very easy for the computer to render. But then the other thing is that there's nothing saying that you have to keep the outlining mesh the exact same, just like a bigger version of the underlying mesh. So that's what they did. They literally just modified the outline from different angles to give this illusion of like brush strokes, which is really, really cool. Anyways, enough yapping about this model. I'm going to showcase my recreation of it, and then we'll get into how you guys can also recreate it. I'm going to say this is not 100% accurate. I tried recreating one of my cats, and as you can see, it's not perfect. Like I could definitely have done like a little bit more detail around certain places, but this is just to like showcase. The side view is what I mainly want you guys to see. So you can see the outline. It follows a more. I don't think it's as inky as the other one, because this is just like a poor recreation in my opinion, but it gets the idea across. Like you can see, typically you want to have thicker lines, like where there needs to be like shadow. Alright, now it's time to actually move on to making a model. This is basically a tutorial on how to create Okami-style 3D models. So anyways, some disclaimers before we get into this. This method requires a little bit of artistic skill in the following areas. You need to know how to 3D model, just basic 3D modeling. You can just copy references like I did here. And then you need some UV unwrapping, it's very easy. I'll showcase that. And then texture painting. Don't need to be a professional level painter. You just need to be able to squiggle lines in random spots. And then finally, just copying references. You like later on, we're going to be using ink art as like a reference to recreate like that inky feeling for the outline mesh. Feel free to use references for that. This step here, I'm already done with the base mesh. This is a cat, and you want to give it two materials. You want one to be the rim material, which I'll just call it rim, and then you want to make sure backface culling is set to camera. And then this material, this is the texture. Just call it texture. And then you set this to your image texture. You want to set the roughness to 1, and then you want to go to specular and set that to 0. And now, go into modifier, generate, solidify. And you want to go negative on this, so it makes the model bigger. You want to disable that, because it creates like a weird thing with the mirror modifier. It doesn't really work well with it. And then for materials, I'm pretty sure you just hit 1, but yeah, it doesn't seem to work for me because I don't know what I got going on here. But then after you're done with that, you want to apply it, and you'll see it makes this giant thing. You want to go to edit, just like select this as like a loop. Now you want to go GX or whatever plane this is along, and you just want to move it to itself. There's going to be some stuff on the bottom, maybe GX backwards, and then boom, everything's all good. Assuming you got clipping and merge enabled on your mirror modifier. Next, you want to do Control L, and then go to Material, Rim, Assign. And now you want to flip the materials, so you want to go select it again, and then Normals, and you just want to flip. Now, if I'm correct, the Solidify modifier actually overwrote the inside model. So let's just select that. We're going to hide it. Let's select this again. And then just set it to the base texture. So now, if we unhide with Alt-H, we got a very simple cartoony outline. As you can see, the cat now has no orange, or it still got a little bit of orange on the feet, but this is the next step where we paint very, very basic colors using Blender's texture paint. So before we go into texture paint, you have to click the model, hit edit, and then you want to select the border, Control L, and then hit H to hide it, because when we go into texture paint mode, if we don't hide it, we'll start drawing on it. As you can see, very simple, just like outlined where I want the white to be, outlined where I want the eyes to be. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. With the Okami art style, eyes typically are pure black. There's no irises or any of that stuff. And then any like, hold up, actually, I could show you pictures. This is just a game. Let's see here. So this is, also, I just realized there's a cat here. You can see the textures, very simple colors. And they mainly focus on the face, if you see that. Everything else looks inky. In fact, actually, let's open this in new tab and just zoom in. The textures aren't really high resolution, which actually kind of adds to the style in a way. But then you can see most of the features, they're just pure black. Like a nose, just a dot. Eyes, just a streak. And then like you can see like with the fur, at least the orange fur, it's very noticeable. You got like white lines in there. You want to keep it like an inky style, right? This is of course zoomed out. And then let's go back. The dog. You can see like the mouth and nose, like the paws, everything's just ink marks, right? And like the line on the tongue, simple ink mark. And then also the other thing you notice real quick is that the colors are all very saturated, and that's where the next thing comes in. You want to use traditional Japanese colors, which this is not, I haven't proven that this is what they were doing with Okami. However, I'm like, you know what? It looks traditional. Might as well use traditional colors. And I found this. It's called Japanese Print 56 Palette. It has plenty of vibrant colors. And alternatively, if you want some, like a little bit more, an even more traditional feel, you can actually go to Wikipedia and go to traditional colors of Japan. And they got everything here. These are all, they got all the names, they got everything. And I'm pretty sure some of these have like specific meanings, like forbidden colors, like do what you want. Anyway, this is the palette I'm going to use. It honestly, I say that the smaller of a color palette you have, the easier it is to make color decisions. But after all the colors laid out on your model, you want to actually go to image and you want to save it. Also, this is assuming you already UV unwrapped it, which actually I will show you guys. So I split the head and the body into two separate things. So we'll do Control L. You can see I used minimal stretch for the body and also the head. And then I also separated the tail. And just because I want you guys to actually know how to do it, I'm just going to redo it with a new one. So we're going to this is going to be very simple. We're going to use face select. We're going to select the nose. And we're just going to Control plus until we get most of the head. We're going to hold shift while clicking to deselect and then, or just basically toggle selection on the faces we want. This is basically the head. And you can see it's just like that, right? And then we want to go to UV and then unwrap and then minimum stretch. This is the best because it prevents it from stretching. It basically makes sure each face gets a good amount of polygon or good amount of pixels. And we're going to scale it down. For me, it looks like I rotated it like this. And you just want to do that, right? And now you want to do a similar thing with the body and tail, you'll have to figure out how to do this for yourself on your model. With the tail, I didn't do minimal stretch. I actually just did UV project from view, which I'm not going to do that because it should look exactly the same. And then for the body, I usually select from the paws or the hands, and I do Control Plus again because it gets most of the underneath. And yeah, and then we just want to select what else we need to do. Oh, almost missed that. And now you would just do minimal stretch again, unwrap, minimal stretch, and then you want to scale it, rotate it. Basically, figure out a way to fit them in. For the texture, I use I'm pretty sure it's a 128 by 128 pixel texture. Let me check. Oh no, 2048. So 2048 by 2048. And then you can already see like what I did here. But if we go back here, once it's in your program, you want to make a new layer, and then you want to just start adding brush strokes. This is a very early version of the texture. But let's see here. So I have a lot of Krita brushes, but honestly, you can just stick with very simple watercolor. I'm pretty sure these come with Krita, and I forget which was the one I want to use. So I have a custom thing here. I'm pretty sure this is the good one. I don't know why. Oh wait, that's the background. My bad. Here we go. So this one's more. It looks a lot more like ink wash, and you can use that, paint that over. You can also use this. It's a little bit more. Actually, I really like that. That's really cool. But basically, you want to color pick from the base colors you painted your thing with, and you just want to go and like blend the borders just to give these colors the appearance of being like ink, which I did a terrible job over here. You can see the brush squares or the, I don't know, brush corners. Here we go. Just fix that up. Well, it's not even going to matter because I already have the final one over here. Now, I went into full like shading mode, which if I'm correct, I used, where is it? Pretty sure is this brush. It is called Water Pattern, Water C, and it basically just blends stuff together. And I also added like some pink for the nose. I added a little bit of pink underneath the ear. This is the other part of the ear that I didn't finish, or not didn't finish. I didn't connect properly because I'm stupid, dumb idiot. However, this is the basic overview on how to do the Okami art style, right? So then if we hop back over to Blender, I can actually just really quickly open up my most recent one. And this is what the final one looks like. Very simple. As you can see, I didn't do a good job with the seam here, but that's just, you can figure that out for yourself. You can actually just like project the entire model. There's a few different ways to project the model or the textures onto the model. Let's select them again, and then let's UV. If we do minimal stretch, normally you can see it makes this. That is a weird looking cat. I mean, if you scale it right, you could definitely use that. Other options, you got like, let's see here, UV, smart UV project, unwrap. You can do that. Honestly though, with minimal stretch, it makes it a lot easier to paint it because you can easily follow like the contours. Like, okay, so yeah, each of these is like the feet. Like, if we go back into texture view, putting the white down here, I'm like, okay, yep, these make clear landmarks in the UV where you can like, okay, yep, that goes up the leg, and like, oh, yep, this goes like on like down to the stomach, and then like this is like the tail, all this stuff. Like, even like with the face or the head, it makes it very simple. Now, at least with the face, it's lacking a bit of detail. You could add whiskers. You can make a little bit more shading here where the nose bridge happens. You'd be like a little curve there. But other than that, that's basically it. That's at least the modeling side of the Okami style. There's a few other things, like there's this water thing, or like watercolor looking texturing for like environments, which looks really cool. If you guys want to see that, leave a comment. Like there's the water. There's like, oh yeah, the fruit. The fruit is very interesting. You can see in the picture here. It's not very visible in the actual thing. Open image, new tab. Zoom in a bit. You can see the outline is very inky. They didn't use the model to make that. It looks like it's either, I'm gonna be dead ass. It's either the zoomed out. It's either the person who published these texture thumbnails onto textures resource, added that in, or they're using a 2D texture like and assuming like the baked oranges always face the camera a certain way. Like with the Chinese cabbage, that look it definitely uses traditional 3D model or a mesh to generate the border. And also they have a cat there. You can study the textures here. They unwrapped them in a different way than what I showed it cased here. In fact, it looks like they used two. They used one for the underneath of the cat and then one for the top of the cat. Or yeah, that's or it might just be two different kinds of cats. I'm not entirely sure. This looks like where the tail is and then whatever. Actually, it might be two different types of cats because this this still looks like a tail. This looks like a tail. It might be a different. It might be an underneath version of it. Whatever they use to blend the textures. But point is, use resources. Like you can go and study these. And then oh yeah, there's the other thing. If I load it up, let's see here. File open. Mr. Flower's house. This is a building from the game. And I'm pretty sure these leaves are supposed to, this cherry blossom tree, these leaves are supposed to rotate to always face the camera. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I haven't played the game. But you can see with the building, if we go into UV editing, we select the right materials. Do they all use the same thing? Oh wait, I'm selecting the wrong mesh. Let's select that one. And you can see they use very simple, definitely hand-painted textures. And it looks like, at least to me, these textures were painted onto the texture and then plastered onto the building. There's so many different methods for creating, painterly looks. So if you want me to cover this art style in another video, leave a comment. But that'll do it. I'll leave links to all of the the color palettes and the stuff and like the models in the description. And if you guys have any other like style breakdown suggestions, feel free to leave a comment.